Now, let's install the system. We'll do it in the VirtualBox. The first step is to create a new virtual machine. We click the New button, and a user-friendly wizard appears that helps us prepare the machine. The machine's name can be anything. Let's call it, for example, Fedora Linux. Based on the name, VirtualBox suggests further options. Please note that if we install a 64-bit machine, it's good to choose a 64-bit distribution form from the list. On a 64-bit virtual machine, we can install any system, 64 and 32-bit. On a 32-bit machine, however, we can install only 32-bit systems, just as it is on a real computer. After selecting the distribution, we click Next. The next window lets us define main memory. The default settings are OK. Though 1024 megabytes, or 1 gigabyte, is a safe range, which would let us work comfortably on our virtual machine. In the case of VirtualBox, it's important that the memory allocated to a virtual machine does not exceed half of the amount of memory available for the operating system. VirtualBox indicates the amount of memory with differently colored stripes. In our case, we have 3 gigabytes of primary memory, so we can't set more than 1.5 gigabytes. Now we click Next. The next step is creating a hard disk, a file, which will simulate a virtual data carrier. It's a very cool solution because such a system allows us to safely deploy multiple virtual machines. There's no risk that we'll damage our file system somehow. Another wizard pops up. The drive type does not really matter, so we leave the default option. If we choose dynamically allocated disk space in the next window, then the VM will not use up the entire disk space assigned to it right away. This solution is a little less efficient than selecting fixed size, but it can save a certain amount of space, and it's sufficient for home testing of the system. When fixed size is chosen, as the name suggests, VirtualBox will immediately prepare a file of the selected size, which will be used as a virtual disk. There will be no dynamic changes in the file size, so the entire virtual machine runs a little faster. In the next window, we choose the size of the virtual hard disk. 8 gigabytes is the minimum that allows the system to be installed correctly. Base installation takes up about 4 to 6 gigabytes, including additional software. We know, however, that in the case of the tests, it's good to have a little more space. Depending on the amount of free disk space, approximately 15 gigabytes should be enough. Of course, if we have lots of disk space available, then the more the better. Especially in the case of dynamically allocated disk. More space will allow us to avoid problems when we test larger software. In the next window, we click Create. At this point, our hard drive is created, and when we click the next Create, our virtual machine is created as well. By default, the virtual machine's emulated hardware has a single processor, a CD-ROM, a floppy disk drive, a video card without 3D support, multiple hard drives, and a network and sound cards. To enhance our Linux experience, we're going to click on the settings and modify our virtual graphics card. "12 megabytes of video memory. It's a bit of a shortage. The graphic card simulation may not be very effective or refined, but let's use the opportunity that we have and increase the amount of virtual memory to 128 megabytes. one screen will suffice. We turn on 3D acceleration. The desktop effects will work without a problem, and the system will be a little more pleasing to the eye. We can leave the other options unchanged. Now we can start our virtual machine. The first time we run it, an assistant will appear. And let us decide what we want to do with our virtual machine now. There's no operating system on it, so it will not start. You have to mount a virtual carrier with the installation CD onto the virtual drive. We do not have to burn a physical media disk. That lets us save on CDs, which in theory are not expensive, but burning a disk just to use it once for installation is not economically justified. From the options available in the wizard, we can choose the host's physical drive. Select this option when you have a physical CD-ROM drive which you want to insert a disk. Or we can choose to use an ISO image located on our hard drive. ISO images are usually downloaded from the distribution's webpage and contain exactly the same things as a burned installation DVD or CD. After selecting the second option, we point to the folder with the ISO image and choose our distribution. We click Start and the system should start up. When startup is completed, we press Enter and start the default installation.